My people, what up, though? We back with another episode of All Black Men Need Therapy. My name is Chief.
And I'm Bell.
My name is Prentice.
And here we go again, y'all. So the conversation started way before this introduction right here, but we're basically having a conversation wrapped around how did you get there? Wherever there is for you to a level of success, and remember to pat yourself on the back when you do get there. So
let me give some more context. So yes, how did you get there? But this all came from goals, right? So a lot of people do New Year's resolutions and New Year's goals and things like that. And a lot of times, well, statistically, most people don't write down their goals statistically, right? So that's one. So when you're not writing down your goals, you're already setting yourself up for failure, right? Because they don't become real. They're not on paper, right? Think about any type of job you've ever had or any type of business engagement you ever had. There was always a contract, right? So even when you get a new job, right, you have a offer letter, right? That's a contract. So why wouldn't you make a contract with yourself, right? So you should always write your goals down. It becomes more real. But so that got us talking about, okay, you put something on paper, but now what, right? Like, how do you get there? Like what is it? What are the steps? And then that conversation led me to be like, yo, you remember home ec class, right? We're probably dating ourselves right now, but we used to have home ec, man. And home ec class, for those who don't know, it was a class that taught you life skills, right? A lot of it had to do with cooking and stuff like that, and little shit like how to clean windows, right? Like
home ec taught me how the order to place the spoons and the forks at the dinner table, like stuff like that we don't learn until we just don't. We may never learn. You know what I'm saying?
It's like little shit like that you pick up in like ounces and cups and how it breaks down, like, and how you can convert them, like different things like that. But they don't teach that any longer. So I was just like, well, what can we give the listeners that's tangible that can maybe help them get to where they want to go, or at minimum just kind of share some of the things that we've done and accomplished that we may not even hold in that higher regard, but for somebody else, they may like, wow, that's where I want to be,
Right, right. P, did y'all have home ec in Oakland? I know you was pretty much taught by substitute teachers.
You trying to play me, but first off, I went to high school in Union City, California, James Logan High School, 94587. Come see me. So no, I went to one of the top high schools in the state of California, but like we had 6 computers in every classroom. It was like a college campus.
I thought you was gonna say we had 6 computers
in the school.
Our school was off the chain, man. We had home ec. I remember thinking to myself, like, why am I gonna go to this class? When I leave to go to school in the morning, my mama ain't here and she don't get back till like 8 anyway. So I already know how to do all this shit. So why am I gonna go to this class? But yeah, we had home ec.
Yeah, we had home ec and 6 computers in the school.
You go to computer school,
computer school. All right. So prior to the introduction, again, what we talked about was sometimes like in terms of we'll start. Where do we want to start? Because I was going to go right into the poetry career. Like,
let's back up a little bit. So we were talking about how, so 2 things came to mind, right? It was home ec class, and then it was how do we get these things accomplished, that some of these things that we write down, right? And then my mind started going, and I started thinking about like what's important to me, and then like, what's important to other people, right? Based on what they say. And then I thought about like how we don't have home ec anymore. So it's like, where do we get this information from? Right. Obviously, if you have parents in the house, there's that. But the other place we get information as human beings in 2021 now is from the internet, right? It's from social media, it's from music, it's from different things like that. So then I started thinking about music, right? Like, what's the message in the music? And then I read this line from Jay-Z. It's from Can I Live, I believe. Jay-Z is my favorite rapper. He says in the song, the streets school us to spend our money foolish, so we bond with jewelers and watch for intruders. right? And then that goes on, stepped up another level. But anyway, what I thought about when I heard that is how he's right. And then I broke it down even further, right?
So yeah, break the lines down for them. So I mean, people who aren't as who aren't able to decipher what that really means. You know what I'm saying?
So he says the street schoolers to spend our money foolish, right? That means when you get it, basically what that means is you spend it on things that don't matter so you can show off how much money you have, right? So they're teaching us to already create bad spending habits, right? And then he follows that up by saying, so we bond with jewelers, right? Now, what that means is you got this money, fast money, right? You in the street, whatever the case, and now you take this money foolishly and go buy jewelry, right? Because now you want to stunt, right? The street schoolers to spend our money foolish, so we bond with jewelers. So I'm creating that bond with that jeweler. I'm establishing a relationship. You know what I mean? And now I'm iced up. I got the bust down, whatever it is, and now I'm on. Now I look like I got it.
And the streets see that.
The challenge with that is, he said, we bond with jewelers and watch for intruders. So what he's saying in that same breath is that lesson that the streets is teaching you to spend your money foolish, bond with jewelers. Now you got to also watch for the jack boys.
Right.
Right. So now
I see you shining.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's you got them, the people that's watching you make those moves. And now I was literally just having this conversation with my cousin 2 days ago. He lives in Springfield, Massachusetts, and he in the street, and it's a lot of stuff going on out there where this stuff is real life, right? Like, so there's people, just so you guys know, right? There's drug dealers who everybody's familiar with that term and they understand what they do, right? They push narcotics. So the other side of that, though, is the people that's trying to stop you from pushing them narcotics. That's not just the police, right? There's crews of people that their job is to rob drug dealers. So that's the lesson that we're learning outside of home ec, outside of anything. Like if you're in the street, that's what you're learning. So what I took from that is like, damn, what if the lesson was different, right? What if the lesson wasn't to bond with jewelers? What if it was to bond with mortgage brokers, right? So I was just thinking about that. And it's like, well, where are we getting those lessons from? And then I thought about myself. I'm like, all right, well, where did I get my lesson from? So like I mentioned before, I bought a house in my early 20s. And I happened to get my financial education from a friend of mine who was a mentor growing up. And he just kind of put me on and I was able to get licensed and stuff like that. So I got this education, which quickly changed my mindset on how I need to spend my money. But I had that luxury, So that's where this whole situation came from, guys. I just got to thinking about what tangible things can we give them. And the reason why I talked about homeownership, I'll just read a quick statistic, guys, that I got off of Redfin. And it says there's currently a home ownership gap. Only 44% of Black families own their homes as of the first quarter of 2020, wow, compared with 73.7% of white households.
Shit.
Right. So obviously there's a lot of factors. There's a lot of different things that happen. But here's what I'll tell you. I know a lot of people who can afford homes, a lot, but I don't know a lot of homeowners. Right.
Good point. Good, very good point.
So it's like, it just got me to thinking, like, what can I do to help educate the listeners and whoever wants the information on how to change that narrative, right? Like, let's not allow the streets to school us to spend our money foolish, right? Because for those who don't know, like buying jewelry, that's a liability that more often than not is not going to appreciate with time, especially not the way we do our jewelry.
Right. Well, I mean, liability depending upon where you're from, or either way, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, like the thing is this, it's like, it's by and large, it's a liability, right? You buy a vintage Rolex, yeah, that can appreciate with time, right? But some of the stuff that we're spending our money on, I mean, look, guys, I I'm not speaking from a holier than thou state, right? I've spent thousands of dollars on jewelry.
I still got a watch that you bought.
That
he bought the expensive watch that he bought, but he gave it to me because he bought a more expensive watch.
Like
I still
thousands and thousands of dollars.
That's a joint that I wear when I go to poetry shows. Like I don't wear it unless I'm going to be in front of somebody. Yeah, like it's a legit watch. The diamonds in the bezel. You know what I'm saying?
So like,
shout out to my guy though.
Don't touch me.
I appreciate you for running that. You know what I'm saying? You just gave me a multi-$1,000 watch. Like, yeah, you can have it. I think I might have took it, but either way, it's mine now.
But that's the thing though, guys. It's like, I'm not speaking from a place where it's like, nah, don't do that. That's stupid. That's stupid. I've done all these stupid things. But again, I just feel like we don't take a second to recognize, okay, hey, we may have been going down that path, but now we course corrected, and here's what we're doing. So anyway, that's where the whole premise of this episode came from. And then we got to talking prior to it, and everybody, you know, I had to help Chief and Prentice realize that you have things to contribute. You just continue to elevate, and you forget about the first step in that elevation. Right. So you continue to move on and don't stop for a second to like congratulate yourself, right? Celebrate yourself. And then more importantly, pass that knowledge down, right? For somebody who's trying to make those first steps.
And I think, and even more than celebrating yourself, I just think in general, as a culture of men, we don't do a good enough job of telling your homie, like, I'm proud of you. Like, yo, you doing it. Like, good job. It doesn't happen often. I think I called you like 2 weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah.
It was like, you know, I'm just giving you a shout for the new position and whatnot. And it's just dope. So we need to do a better job of celebrating one another and stop all that hate and shit. You know what I mean?
Yo, and another thing is ask questions, guys. Like this dude had me on the phone for part of the reason I was late today.
Get out of here.
Yeah, it cut into my day. He had me on the phone for like 40 minutes, just asking me all kinds of questions just about my company and just like all great questions, but like he was curious, right? He was just wanted to know. You know?
I have this thing about listening to people talk about what they're passionate about. Like I can sit back and listen for hours, you know what I'm saying? And it's just so dope. Like P, I'm sure you've been hit up by tons of, you know, up and coming poets who want to know how you got to the light, how you got this marquee behind your name and all that good stuff. And as we were talking prior to, you know, to opening up, it's just like when we go to performances sometime and they're reading off our bio and they're saying stuff like, you know, Prentice Power performed at this place and that place and with Jill Scott and yada, yada, yada. And you sit back sometime, it's like, damn, like I really did a lot, but we don't give ourselves enough credit for that because we steady chasing the next goal, the next dream. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think sometimes I think the one thing people need to understand is your perspective on failure is everything. That's one thing I think we don't talk about enough when we talk about how we got somewhere. We get the cliche, you're going to fail, you're going to fall down, you're going to get back up. But one thing that I've learned that I would want people to know is that failure often feels exactly the same, but just may like look different in a couple of different ways, depending on where you at. You know what I'm saying? So the way I look at my career as a writer, poet, whatever the fuck you want to call me, while I figure out what the hell it is I really, you know, am doing with this as it continues to build, is that you work hard to get to the next level up. Once you, and I think I've said this before in the podcast, once you get to that next level up, you're only on the bottom tier of the next level. You know what I'm saying? So once you accept the fact that failure is a part of success, it can make things a lot easier. You know what I'm saying? Like a whole lot easier.
There's a line in one of your poems where you kind of mentioned that, like, I'm still at the bottom of the, I don't know which one it is, but I'm gonna find it. You talk about like the level up and like you still starting at the bottom of the trash can or something. I can't remember what it was, but
I know what you're talking about. I gotta think about what it was to run it, but I know exactly what you're talking about. I just ain't got it. It ain't. I need to practice that poem, whichever one it is. Watch, I'm gonna call you, but like, here we go. This is what it is.
I think you bring up a good point, Prentice, is like, and I don't know why I just thought about this analogy, but to me it makes sense and probably won't make sense to a lot of people listening, just because it's just weird. But I was thinking about like when you said failing, right? And not being afraid to fail. The first thing I thought about when you said that is like some of this newer generation, how a lot of them unfortunately resort to violence because a lot of them are afraid to lose a fight. You know, like it's like they and they'll never admit that, but that's what it is. Like they're afraid to lose the fight, so they don't even try to fight. Right? They resort to the extreme. You know, and sometimes I feel like our mindsets as minorities, it shifts to the extreme in simple situations, right? Where it's like, all right, instead of you just sitting down, mapping out a plan, and again, I understand there's reasons for everything, and I'm not knocking these people. I get it, right? Life happens, circumstances happen. I get it, but instead of you mapping out a plan on how to strategically get to somewhere, you say, okay, oh, I'm gonna just go with the fast buck, where I'm gonna go to extreme, right? As opposed to me trying to make 100,000 over the next 12 to 18 months, I'm gonna try to make it in 6 months, knowing that the risk at the time may be feeling like the risk may be worth the reward, but in reality, it's not, right? And that's, and I was just thinking about that, just like how, which goes back to my original point, right? How strategic are we being in achieving our goals, right? And where are we going to get that information if we don't have it? Because it's a double-edged sword, right? It's like, I can talk about being a homeowner all I want, right? But if I say that and I just put that out there and I say, look, go be a homeowner, and they look, so somebody's listening, look up, like, bro, I live in the projects, bro. I don't know anybody who owns a home. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, you're right, you don't. But what else is at your disposal, right? You have podcasts you can listen to, there's books that you can read, but I understand the challenge of not seeing what you are envisioning and making that like more of a dream than anything, right? Because it's hard to see yourself in whatever the situation that you wrote on that paper, because you don't see anybody else that looks like you in your neighborhood or your surroundings.
So that's part in saying, we're saying writing down your goals.
Right.
So if your goal is to buy, let's use the house example. If your goal is to buy a house and you know absolutely nothing about buying a house, your first goal in the list to get to that house is spend an hour a day researching what it takes to buy a house. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like an hour a day. And then once you get that, learn what it looks like taking a loan out and just do the research. Like those are all goals in leading to that. Even if you can start from scratch, like I'm sure you can, but like giving these people the gems that they need to chase whatever goal is, like, to buy a house, if that's what it is, you're not going to sit here and streamline the whole process, but saying, listen,
but I got some tips.
Right.
So okay, I can get into them whenever you're
ready. Go ahead, P.
I was gonna say, just adding this, I think just listening to the conversation, I'm hearing you guys talk about, stopping and writing down your goals, and if you want to learn how to buy a house. In my head, for some reason, always goes to the people who aren't even at that stage yet. You know what I'm saying? Like the grown ass adults they're not even at a stage about buying a house. They can, I don't even want to say they can barely keep $5 in their account, but there are also, I want to make sure that we also highlight to those who aren't at the buy a home place, aren't at that stage of buying a brand new car. What are you doing as well to kind of make sure that you're like getting rid of some of the like toxic behavior that got you to that point? You know what I'm saying? That got you when you don't know how to do certain things at a certain age.
What I'll say to that, Prentice, because I got something on there for them too. But what I'll say is, you have to want to make your situation better.
Boom. There we go.
Like, that's it. Like, I don't give a shit how many books you read and everything like that. Like, if you don't want to change, you ain't going to change, right? No matter what type of or level of influence you're going to have.
And one part.
Yeah, I feel like some people sometimes what they do is, and I think I've fallen victim of doing this shit and wanting to change in some area. We go to some self-help website on YouTube real quick, and we kind of allow that to just kind of be the surface work that we need to really get that job done. You know what I'm saying? Like we allow that to just be the instruction. That shit don't work, and then we're like, this shit ain't for me. When it may be a character issue, it may be a behavior thing, it may be a habit thing. Yeah. So I think habits are important too. So doing that thing, like you're saying, of writing things down. I've been doing this since January 3rd. I'm doing 100 push-ups for 60 days. Just 100 push-ups. That's it. I'm not doing no curls with that. I ain't doing no sit-ups with that shit. I'm doing 100 push-ups for 60 days, because if I can break certain habits and start one place and see some tiny results, then I can add something on there. But I feel like sometimes we go to the self-help areas on YouTube and shit like that, which are all informative, but we don't get ourselves in the routine of just, caring about our development on our own without anybody else.
Right, and it's crazy. It's crazy. No, you're making sense, and it's crazy you say that, because I recently joined, not recently, but the start of the year, the fellas, a couple guys I work with started a group chat, and it was 365, and it's basically every day for the year you got to do a mile, whether it's walking, running, rowing, whatever it is, you have to do a mile a day in something, and you held on your own accord, and it's something that's motivating me. So like kind of like your push-up thing, where it's like it's not a goal, it's written down because in a text message, but that's one of my goals, is to like uphold that and make sure I get a mile in a day, some way, somehow. So that's something simple like that would be something you write down and make sure you achieve that. And as part of the conversation that we talked about earlier, one of the things you said was everybody wants the glory, nobody wants the story.
Yeah, not everybody wants the story.
Not everybody wants the story. And that to your point, P, that failing,
that's the story.
That's the story.
Yeah,
that's the story. But everybody wants that top flight success. How many times have you auditioned or put in a poem for something and been like, nah, that ain't working. This ain't what we want, or whatever the case may be. But the failures have come and just done nothing but motivate and fuel us. Meanwhile, others are taken back by that rejection.
We have to normalize telling a story. That's important too. We got to normalize telling the story. We can't just wait for the success to happen to,
bro.
If your goal is to help other people, to make it public knowledge. Oh, this is how I got here. And it takes a lot of vulnerability. You know what I'm saying? Like it's hard to tell the story in the midst of some of that shit. But sometimes telling the story is what creates that web of other people who can relate to that shit to kind of help you, give you some navigation between that. So I think we got to remember that.
Literally had this conversation this morning with my team, because there's a lot of times, especially in the failure components, right? There's pain associated with that story, right? Yeah. There's pain associated with that. So we try to get through the pain. Like, no, I don't want to relive that pain. Like I got where I needed to get. I don't want to talk about that, right? And it's not a conscious thing more often than not. It's just like you block it out. But there's so much to be gained in that story. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people don't understand that, hey, guess what? That pain may be necessary, right? You can't expect to get there without some level of pain, right? You think about any type of gain you get, right? Whether it's working out, growing, shit as a child, right? When you have a growth spurt, right? That shit hurts. Growth spurts hurt. Like they're physically, like it's physical pain, right? So anytime you grow, you're gonna endure something. And your pain may not be my pain or Prentice's pain or Chief's pain, but it's gonna be something. And I think a lot of times we create these mythical characters by who we observe on the screen or who we see on social media, and just assume that this is how it's always been. And a lot of people with those platforms, they do a pretty good job of helping. Like Cardi B, I don't know why I just thought about her, right? She talks about that a lot, right? Like where she started, like, you know what I'm saying? Stripping and all of that shit. And
I don't mean to cut you off, but one thing I always found like funny and crazy about how rappers do that shit? They'll talk about coming from the trenches and the slums and getting money, and then turn around and be like, fuck all y'all broke ass niggas out there. Y'all niggas ain't got no money. It's like, what? You was just talking about being broke last January. What, and I'm a bitch? That's irrelevant, but anyways, keep going, man.
Yeah, man. We can talk for hours, right, about social media influences and the positive and negatives. But I guess all I'm saying, guys, is I want to use my platform, our platform, for good, right? That's it. Like if I can help with a tidbit, then that's what I want to do. But that was the whole premise of this episode. And I know we just kind of gave a very long breakdown of how we got here, but the whole premise was, what can we give tangible to the listeners, viewers, that they can implement. That's it, right? Like that's it. But I think it starts with, I think we started already, and I think it starts with understanding some of the challenges you've had that hasn't allowed you to get to some of the things you want to get to, you know? Because once you identify the challenge, then you can address it. But if you don't identify the challenge, then it's never going to be addressed.
So in terms of tangible things, let's specifically right now talk about home ownership.
Okay.
Give them, I don't know, 2-3 tangible things that they can do in terms of pursuing that direction.
So I'll just tell my story, guys. One of the things I did prior to buying a house was I had a job. I had a decent job, like definitely not like high paying at that time. I was 23 years old, but I had a decent job. And what I did is I sat down with somebody free of charge, and they kind of went through my finances. And then I realized that this is a fact. Like I was spending $500 a week in the club. Like
we was clubbing.
Like and it was something like, yeah, like $700. It was $750 every pay period. I was spending in the club and entertainment. So I'm like, holy shit. Like, where's all that? Because then on top of that, I'm always crying broke. That was the other thing. Like, I was always saying, I'm broke. And I was like, yeah, no shit, you're broke. Half your money is going to,
titties.
So that was the first thing, right? Identifying why I wasn't saving money. So I identified, I created a plan. And then what I did from there, something that the financial person didn't tell me to do, but I was like, you know what? One day I went to the mall with $20, maybe it's a little bit more, but $30, $40. And I left with $8. And all I had literally to show for it was a pair of socks. And I'm like, where the hell did the rest of this money go? And then I sought down the thought. I was like, well, I bought a pretzel. Then I bought one of them Auntie Anne cookies.
How old were you?
Like 22.
You was breaking down $20 like that? Yeah, you was destined to buy a house hella young, nigga. I was going through it at the mall.
But but it's like, because I might have had 40. I don't remember what it was, but all I remember is I left with some socks. And I'm like, where's my money at?
This ain't the move.
Yeah, like how'd I spend this money? You know what I'm saying? So then it got me to think, and I'm like, well, if I can do this in one trip to the mall, what am I doing throughout the week? So what I started doing is every time I bought something, I would take the receipt. I never took the receipt more often before, but I took the receipt, and I would put the receipt in this envelope, and I did it for every day for a month. And at the end of the month, I broke down what I spent, and I broke it into categories. I broke it into like transportation, like gas, entertainment, clothes, and food. So I broke it down in those 4 categories. And I was like, all right, well, how much of this money is going there? So what I did is I did the first month and I did it again. And then I created like a baseline, right? So, all right, so each month on average, I spend $300 in transportation or whatever the case. So then what I did is going into each month, I would try to knock it down, right? So if I'm averaging $300 on food for the month, next month I'll try to spend $275, right? $280, something. So then what I would do now, maybe I'm not going to get my shit supersized, pause, right? I'm buying like a regular meal. Like maybe I'm not adding apple pie. Like all these little things add up. And then I started saving some money. And then obviously the biggest expense was the club. So I fell back on spending so much in the club. Like I would go buy a bottle before I went to the club, and then get right at home and then not buy as many drinks in the club. So it's like little shit like that. And I started doing it. And then what the ultimate end result was, I found out what I needed to survive. So anything after that I could save. You see what I'm saying? So I just broke it down like that. I was like, all right, now everything else, I can save this because this is all I need. I don't need to spend $300. I can spend $225 on food for the month to survive. Like I don't need to, and I wasn't eating Spam and shit, you know what I'm saying? But like I said, I just wasn't going extravagant. And you don't have to do that forever. Like I did that until I was able to get to a place where I could save some money.
So that's the first lesson right there. Just be aware and hold yourself accountable for your spending. If you have a goal and you need that money to buy a house or to put it towards that, you want to be able to account for the money you're spending in different places.
And I'll add, can I add something to it?
Please.
Well, yeah, let me add this. Like we talk about saving money like a strategy. One tip just for people out there, especially if you have kids, I'm the change king. Don't nobody got more change than me, but
nobody, buddy.
I'm gonna spend it. It could be $2.75, and I got $3 bills in 3/4 in my pocket. I'm gonna give the $3 bills. I don't know why, but anyways, change king. So I've change falling out of my pocket everywhere. So what I do is I'm one of those parents where my kids are gonna come first. So even though we got the budget for everything, I'll probably put more on their clothes and their wardrobe than mine because I'm one of them people where my kids can't never look worse than me in public. You know what I'm saying? So one thing I've done is I always make sure they're taken care of. I bought a piggy bank to put in their room. That's a collective piggy bank for change. And what I do now is all the change I get, I either put it in my top drawer for my dresser, and then I transfer it to that piggy bank, knowing that it's really my money. But because I put it in their room and I'm calling it the community piggy bank, I'm not going to take money out of it. You get what I'm saying? So it's kind of like a mental manipulation to me because the piggy bank's in their room. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to touch it. So if you have to place your money in certain places in your house or kind of put a title that's associated to your kids because you know you're not going to take from them, then maybe that's something you can do to kind of pocket that money. And then the follow-up thing, just in conclusion, is that we got to change our perspective on change. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Some people look at a bucket of fucking pennies and be like, damn, I'm broke as shit. No. And some people see a potential $500.
I'm picking up pennies, dimes, all that. When I see it, I'm picking it up.
Look, when they short you at 7-Eleven and they don't give you that 3 cent, man, ask for your 3 cent, bud. Like for real. You know what I mean? So we gotta look at you the right way, man. That's all I wanted to say.
Here's a gem I got for you, Pete. One, I'd like to battle you in that change king because I got a bucket in my room full of change. It's one of them little the protein powder buckets full of change.
You had the Poland Spring.
I did. So then,
where you keep that protein bucket at? Just curious.
Don't worry about what I'm doing. So anyways, what I do though, oftentimes is no lie. I'll stop at the car wash and I'll just get like a dub in quarters and come home and just throw it in the bank. Like maybe like, I don't know, once, twice a month, but I'll get like $20 in quarters and just throw it in the bank just because. So there's at least a couple $100 in there just by random car wash stops to put more change in the bucket. You know what I'm saying?
So man, that's a great segue to my next tip for everybody is I don't know if you ever heard this before, but it's called pay yourself first, right? What that means is before you do anything else, pay yourself, right? So whatever that is, right? If it's $20 at the car wash a month, pay yourself first, right? Before you do anything the first of the month, go to the car wash, get that $20 in quarters, right? Because a lot of times that's what happens. We start, and not to bore you with statistics, but the average American has $15,000 plus in credit card debt, right? Like that's average. And obviously it's some outliers there, but that's one thing I'll say. It's like pay yourself first. That's the mentality that I was able to adapt once I started seeing how much I was spending and all of that. I'm like, well, I'm tipping these bartenders, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but I'm not putting no money away. So before I didn't do anything, I pay myself first. So that shit comes out of my account. Sometimes it's inconvenience. Right? It's like, oh, okay, kind of needed that, but you know, it's not like I don't have it. It's just not in the account that I can touch. Well, I can touch it, but it's like a hassle. Like sometimes Chief will hit me like, yo, let me hold a couple racks to this. And I'm like, I got it, but
you be pissing me off. It's like, pissing me off, but I'm like, yo, I need this for just a couple of days. And he'd be like, I got it, but I gotta the way my banking, the way my checking
savings set up. You know, it's like it's a hassle, but that's to your point, Prentice, right? Like that is a defense mechanism, right? For myself, because it's like I know if I can go touch it, I can go to ATM and pull it out. I'm gonna pull it out more often than not when I don't need to. So I got a separate account set up where, like I said, I pay myself first. Now, don't get me wrong, I've been in that motherfucker plenty of times, but it's just not as convenient as going to the ATM.
I will say you are definitely my most financially responsible friend, and I've stolen a million different gems from him just in terms of like being able to actually save money. Like I just spent 12.5 on my roof, but I had it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I had it.
That's it right there, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
And I don't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, bro.
No, go ahead. I'm just saying, but I had it, and that was just, you know, it
That
felt
goes
good to
to what
me.
we talked about before we started recording about what I was telling you about. You know, I think one thing people got to realize too is like we hear the success stories of the items that people obtain, but what I'm learning is the mental freedom of having it. You know what I'm saying? Like what you just said, just right there, Chief, of when you have things come up and just being able to cover it. And I'm saying from the basic level of spending 12.5 on your roof to getting a flat tire, but and having $40 to go get a used one so that you can hold off until you can buy a new one. But just having it. So the idea of saving is bigger than it's bigger than the house. It's bigger than the car. It's the idea of providing yourself like this mental comfort.
Peace of mind.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot more comfort in being able to take care of things.
But that's the difference between living for today and living for the future, right? Somebody told me a long time ago, you can work hard now and live easy later, or work easy now and live hard later.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what it is. It's like, yeah, Chief, as much as you hated that shit coming out of your account, you had it, right? Like, and that's what I always say. It's like, think about money, guys. Here's the thing about money, right? You can always get it back.
Always.
You can always get it back, right? But what you can't get back is time. You know what I'm saying? You can't get back time. Like that's something. So even like that flat tire situation, Prentice, right? It's like, if you don't have it, guess what? You're going to be on that side of the road. Sad, mad, and depressed. You know what I'm saying? And potentially putting yourself in harm's way in a whole nother way, right? Whereas you just take these steps, right? And just dedicate yourself. And guys, look, I started saving $25 a pay period. And that's a true story, right? I just started very, very small. And then just tried and started doing that and trying to find my way. You know what I'm saying? Nobody taught me. Like I said, I'm the first person in my family to buy a house. You know what I'm saying? Like literally my immediate family for sure. And then probably more than half of my aunts and uncles, I bought houses before them too, you know?
I think I am too. I got to look deep into it, but I think I am too.
But I mean, the fact that we have to look deep into it tells you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it wasn't a lot of people that own houses. And and the crazy is my grandparents, they always owned a house. You know what I'm saying? They always owned the house. I was talking to my older cousin about this. They always owned the house. And only maybe one or two of their kids ever owned a house. You know what I'm saying? And there's no knock. It is what it is. And that's nothing. As I'm talking about this, I'm thinking about you, Prentice, right? You live in Oakland or in that area. It's like, motherfuckers might be listening. It's like, yo, bro, do you know how much houses cost out here? Like, ain't nobody buying no house. You know what I mean? Like, if you ain't Drake, you ain't buying no house out here. And I get that too, right? I get that too. And I know in Connecticut, it's different. Like, I'm moving to Boston. And even I was talking to Chief about houses out there. It's like, I'm selling a house in Connecticut. I close next week. And that same house in Boston is literally worth 7 times as much.
Shit.
No exaggeration. 7 times as much. So it's like, I get that too, right? But it goes back to what you want to do. And I'm not here to tell you what to do or what not to do. I'm just telling you, if you want to do any of the things that I've done or any of us have done, I'm going to give you the tips that I use to get there. That's it, right? You do what you want with it. I just know I never tell people really, and not because I'm holding the information, because I just never think to. Because again, when we get to that wrong, when we keep going. Like I've literally probably bought a number of houses since I bought my first house. So I don't think about what it took to get me to my first house.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, but that's why I wanted to make sure I took the time to do it. And then the last tip I'll give just on home ownership, guys, is if you want a brand new car and you really want a brand new car, buy a house and then go buy a car that same day. Because I promise you, it's a lot easier to buy a house than a car and a car the same day than a house. Right. And there's a lot to that, but just take my word for it. Right. you go buy, if you can afford a house, or not afford a house, if you can get approved for a house, you can get approved for a car, right? But if you can get approved for a car, you may not get approved for a house as a result of what it took to get approved for that car.
Makes a good point. That's a valid, very valid point.
That's something I never even thought about before. That's a great point.
You know what I'm saying? And also, Chief can attest to this. You got a very nice car. Like Chief always has a very nice car. Get a garage.
Tearing my shit up.
Chief shit. He might be uninsurable at this point.
Vandalism, but it's never me.
No, it's not.
All my friends be banging my shit.
But yeah, that and like the break-ins and the vandalism and shit like that. So anyway, I'm more so playing for fun, but that's it, guys. I guess in short, like whatever you put on that paper is important. Period.
Whether again, I think just to piggyback, writing it down. It's just you have to get those steps in between. Like I got some goals this year, some pretty big ones I'm chasing, but I've got some stuff in between right now. After this, one of my I wrote down was to spend an hour a night digging into my play. And as soon as we get this, I'm going back and I'm editing my play and digging into it. An hour a night, and I did an hour today.
Can I get a cameo on the play?
Nah, you can be in the credits though.
Like executive producer credits.
Say what?
I said you're doing them dirty. You just giving them credits. That's it.
I mean, you know, it's a one man play. Like,
yeah, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I thought about that afterwards.
Like, you can't have one man play with two niggas in it.
Yeah.
You know, how y'all feel about this? Because you know, it's so interesting, man. The one thing I enjoy about doing this podcast and our conversations we had, because I feel like all three of us have really different perspectives on things, but have similar train of thought. What do you say for people who, you know, if we're talking about like how did we get here, where does the emotional component come in for you? Like Chief, like if you look at what you've accomplished thus far, right? The things that you've gotten over or gotten past to get where you are emotionally. You know what I'm saying? Because that's another thing with us. I think like as Black men, we talk about like the shit we gotta do. You know what I'm saying? Like the hustle, but what do we do with do you got like emotional pockets? How'd you get where you are now from an emotional standpoint? Does that make sense?
So there's a double-edged sword to the answer to that question, solely because of what we do for a living. Or what we, you know, our secondary or your primary, my secondary profession. Like our job is to essentially display those emotions on stage. P, you know what I'm saying? Like I was gonna mention this a while ago. Like when we talked about the pain and stuff that we go through. Like our job is to put that pain on stage and use it to connect with people. You know what I'm saying? So let me process the emotional component, but could you answer your own question first? Or
before you even answer that, that's the same exact thing though.
What do you mean?
You just said you use the pain to connect with people.
Right.
Right? Uh-huh. It's no different than telling your story.
But that's what we do.
No, but that you do that on a grand stage, and I understand that. Most people won't be afforded that opportunity. Right. But what I'm saying is you can have the same impact by telling that story. Because the glory versus story, like the pain and the triumph in that story can be encouraging to one who's trying to accomplish that, right? Somebody can look at Chief and be like, oh, he's this, he's that. Like, I don't know if I could ever be that. But then you tell the story about how you got there. They're like, damn, like really? I've been through that too. So you saying if I went through that or something similar to that, I can still make it there?
There was, I can't remember who it was. Was it you, P? It was somebody telling me like when they auditioned for Versus and Flow, they duct taped their cell phone to the wall and did the poem in front of the phone like that. You know what I'm saying? And like that was how they sent their audition tape in. And it's just like you do.
A lot of the homies did that. I remember a lot of the homies. I reached out like, "Look, you need to submit your tape. You need to prop this shit up on a lot of people did that, and lo and behold, man, you know."
Right. So again, P, because I want to make sure I answer your question the right way. When you're referencing the emotional space, how do you answer your own question?
How did I get here emotionally? I allowed myself to finally fucking I guess feel freely, you know what I mean? Like not based upon what my responsibility was in 30 minutes or what relationship I was in or where I thought I should have been or what somebody told me. Just you got to kind of handle the experiences, you know what I mean? You got to give yourself permission to kind of, I feel like, feel everything for however long you need to feel it. You know, it doesn't mean you just fuck it, you know, as I go through this, whatever happens, happens, have a plan, have a goal. But I say that I have emotionally gotten to this space, one, by forgiving myself and allowing myself to grow at this age. You know what I mean? Like just really relinquishing the idea of like societal norms. Just allowing myself to get rid of it, man. You know what I mean? And just deal with what comes and then talk about it.
So for you, Bell, someone who's not traditionally on stage speaking to people, I mean, I'm sure you've led a presentation to the company or whatever.
Well, let me say this, but I'm not referring to poetry at all when I say that, but I'm not referring to telling the story. I'm referring to literally, like, if I look at as Prentice, how I'm here, wherever I'm at now, which doesn't mean completely healed or whole, just allowing myself to freely feel, give out, and receive in life is getting me to this space now where I'm able to make more sense of things. So outside of poetry.
Okay. I mean,
what were you about to ask me?
Just because he's asking, like, how did you handle or deal? Pete, can you rephrase the question? Because I didn't really understand.
So Bill, looking at you and your story, man, you know, buying houses young and at this age, being able to buy silver houses, to somebody like me, that symbolizes a lot of discipline. It symbolizes a lot of focus. And it really symbolizes money management. Honestly, I don't think you can do that type of shit without knowing how to do that. I can't relate. You know what I'm saying? I can't relate to that experience. That doesn't mean there aren't emotional barriers that come and that you hit while achieving certain things. They may come in a different form. It may not come from, you know what I'm saying? If I think of some of the hurdles I've accomplished, a lot of them have to do with women and emotions, right? So I'll look at a lot of mine from an emotional aspect and it involve women. For you, what were some of the things you had to deal with, endure, or feel emotionally to get where you are now? Or have you always been kind of, you know, consistent in, you know, on the ball with success and the things that come as you get?
You want to talk about the dark patch? We kind of talked about it in the last one.
Yeah, nah, hell no, Prentice. Good question. Here's what I'll say. I think my first house that I bought was timing. Like, I'll be honest, it was timing. I had a couple dollars saved, not a lot, right? I didn't put 20% down, so I'm not going to sit here and talk to y'all like I was 23 with, you know, $30,000, $40,000 saved. That was not the case. It was timing in the sense I bought my first house in 2007. And for those who remember, 2008 was the Great Recession, right? But what led to that recession were subprime mortgages. That's what led to it. Now, I didn't buy a subprime mortgage. I bought a 30-year fix, but they were giving out like 100% financing, right? So I had decent credit. I had a couple dollars, and I was able to get a house, right? Now, fast forward, 2008, 9, I left the job where Chief and I worked together in September 2008 to pursue self-employment. And I was talking to Chief about that today. It's like, I went through a lot. Like, I almost lost that house. I was very close to losing that house, but I didn't. You know what I'm saying? And I think it was that process. Like, I didn't even tell that story. Like, you're talking about emotional and you talk about the pain, right? This is a good example, right? You talk about you can't relate to me, which I understand. But a lot of people may look at that and say, well, he did this, he did that. But I also almost lost that same house. You know what I mean? I almost lost that same house that I bought for my mom. And it was just like, that was, I mean, shit, you're talking about an emotional toll. It didn't get much heavier than that, right? I was able to come through and not lose it, not go into foreclosure, none of that stuff. But that was the first thing, right? And it was like building myself back up. You know what I'm saying?
So what did you do during that time I guess my question is, so I can imagine, man, buying a house for my mama and then that shit getting ready to be snatched from me. I know that takes you to a place emotionally. So what I'm saying for certain listeners out there, because certain people I've talked to who've talked, you know, just brothers in general, they struggle with the juggle of the dilemma and their emotions. We can apply that at hella different places.
No,
you get what I'm saying?
Let's talk about it. Yeah. So, a couple things. One, as Black men, more often than not, whether it's perceived or it's a reality, we more often than not don't feel we have the tools to release some of this stuff, right? Like Chief on that last season got pissed when he found out everything that I went through because I never told him. I never told anybody. So you got that emotion. It's like, fuck, I'm in this messed up situation and I felt like a failure. And that's another thing that I do, like, and I'm really hard on myself with this. Like, just literally 2 days ago, I had to go to my wife. We have a joint account. I had to take some money out of the joint account. But it took me like through an emotional roller coaster to get, because I'm, just for you guys to know, I'm in the process of, I'm remodeling the house, I'm selling the house, and I got a lot of stuff going on. So a lot of money's coming out. So I had to go to her because I was short on something. And I was like, I need to take money out of this account. And she's like, all right, fine. But for me to work up the nerve, now mind you, this is our money, but for me to work up the nerve to ask for that, it was like, I took that as like, I failed, like I fucked something up. Where it's like, no, bro, you didn't mess anything up, right? You probably shouldn't have been, you probably shouldn't have been using all your money to begin with, right? Like, but that's kind of how I do, like, that's just like my mindset. So anyway, go ahead.
If I just to cut you off intentionally right now, but keep your thought. I think our pride gets in the way. Like you had a hard time asking your wife to take money out of your account.
Right. No, 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that concept was crazy, right?
But in the same token, when you was going through your patch, when he was going through his patch back then, it was right around the time my brother was killed. And I happened to have like a shitload of extra money from he had a crazy life insurance policy. You know what I'm saying? So had my man be like, yo, P, I'm hit, blah, blah, blah. It wouldn't have been a question. Right. That's what got me mad because like, yo, lean on your boy. Like I'm here.
I thought about that after you said that. And it's like, I thought about it and I'm like, why didn't I say anything? But it's like, how dare I give you another burden? And again, that you were not going to look at it that way. I'm just telling you, that was my mindset.
I think that's where the love comes in. You know what I'm saying? When there's people you care about, sometimes we hold on to that, man, because we got so much insight in their life and we already know shit they going through and we don't want to put it on them. And then, you know, all of a sudden they thrown in there.
Y'all know how I operate. Like it's never, like if I got it, you got it.
Harder though, bud. For me, that's what makes it even harder, because I know how you are. Like I know if I need something, but I can hit you. You know what I'm saying? And because I know that, you keep that shit on a extra special reserve, bud. You know what I mean? Because you know you.
But and also you also know how many people he does that for, right?
Exactly.
That's the other thing. It's like, so for me, it's like, man, if I can muscle my way through this, I'd rather do that.
No, fuck that. See, I'm not accepting that because Christopher K. Bellamy, who is my closest friend on this earth.
That's a question?
Yeah.
Me.
Okay. Who did I lean entirely on outside of MJ's mom at the time?
No. Again, I know. So I know.
I was in his back pocket, Pete.
It's like you're helping my argument.
I was in his back pocket, like, yo, you my man's. Like, if you were there for me, dog, I gotta be there for you.
I understand that, but it's like I couldn't turn that off in that situation. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, literally, your whole family was leaning on you, and I get it. Like, I completely get it. So I was just trying to be there for you in whatever way I could. And I wasn't going to be like, yo, by the way, brother, 3 months behind on his mortgage and trying to slide me a couple racks. You know what I'm saying? Like, I couldn't do that. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, man, it was it was more one of those things where I was like, nah, I gotta figure this out on my own. Now, yeah, hindsight being 2020, yeah, I should have hollered at you. Without question, I should have done it. But again, I'm having trouble going to get my own money. Right?
Yeah,
like, put in perspective, I'm having trouble getting my own money, and then let alone borrowing some money. So that's my thing. So to answer your question, Prentice, how I got through it, man, I went through this phase where it was like mind, body, and soul. Like I talked to my man one day, he had made that reference, and I was like, all right, let me just grind it out. So what I was doing, this is literally how I got through it, man. I knew that things weren't going to always be bad, right? I knew I had people to talk to. I just didn't feel comfortable talking to them. So I powered through it through reading. It's a true story. Like I read a self-development book, 10 pages each night before I went to bed, because during REM sleep, you process all that information, right? So I did that. When I woke up in the morning, I read an autobiography of somebody who's successful. Again, back to my original point, you read about those person's triumphs, right? That person's struggle. And it inspires you like, all right, well, I'm gonna get through this because I'm going through something just like they went through something. They got through it. Look at them, right? So that's how I started my day. And at the end of the night, like at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, I would ride my bike. Literally, like, man, I rode my bike everywhere. I ride my bike over here. Like, I mean, it was just my way of exercising. You know what I'm saying? And those are the three things. I did that, and then I grind, right? I was unemployed at the time. I was selling insurance, but the market was all fucked up. So I woke up in the morning, got dressed for work, and went on the computer and just applied for jobs. Now, mind you, this whole time, my job was offered back to me at the high school, right? Like that was the easy way out. Like I could have went back and worked at the high school, still to date my favorite job. But I knew if I did that, all the shit I just went through would have been in vain. You know what I'm saying? So I just powered through it, and I am where I am now. You know what I'm saying? But that's kind of how I got through it, man. I focused on my mind, because my whole thing was, I was like, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, because I don't want to not be ready when the opportunity presents itself. You know what I'm saying? So I was just always focused on staying ready. That's how I got through it.
Stay ready, you're going to get ready. So we always get in these conversations and we derail from the topic, or it drifts one way or the other. But in trying to wrap this thing up, P, do you have, or are you willing to share your top or one of your goals for this year?
Wait, repeat the question. I was texting.
Are you willing to share a goal, one of your top goals, or one of your goals for 2021, and some steps you're taking towards getting there?
Oh, yeah, man. Trying to buy that first, well, don't want to say that one. I'm trying to think. I don't want to say multiple ones. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm weird about goals, man.
I know I'm the same way. I think I know what you're saying, and I'm the same way. Like I'm like one where, like even when I was interviewing for this job, I didn't talk about it. I didn't tell nobody. You know what I'm saying? And my wife is the opposite. She's more of like speaking into existence, and I'm just like, like I'm not good with that.
You said that because the moment I'm thinking about was yesterday, man. There are two main things that I'm trying to obtain this year of huge significance. You know what I mean? They're physical items. And now and it's what I was telling you earlier, I share this with the people. What I'm doing now is I'm changing the mentality in my head where even though I don't physically have what it is I'm working for, I'm already placing myself. I have these fantasies about my life where once I get one thing, I want to know how I know how I want to look physically. I know how I want to be dressed at that point. I know where I want to be mentally with just certain accomplishments. It's weird. So I'm trying to mentally and physically place myself in these positions as if I already have the items I'm trying to achieve. So that when I get it's a little bit more like seamless, the transition. So with that item that I'm thinking about in mind, we placed ourselves in that scenario with that item yesterday and had some very realistic conversations about obtaining that item. And that was new for me because I had never been able to do that previously. So now, after, now that I've accepted the fact that there's sunlight in my life and shit that's permanent, it's getting that mentality ready for the things that I want. So I forget your question, but I think I kind of answered it.
It was just your goal for your goal.
For that goal, it comes with mental preparation, not just the financial.
Yeah. So is that kind of like in the sports world? Not that you're not an athlete, but in the sports world, it's kind of like act like you've been there before. Act like you've been there before. Is that kind of the mentality you preparing for this? Like once you get there?
No, because I have been there before. In a sense, I've had experiences with these items, but it's getting into this house was a push. You get what I'm saying? Like you typically want to have everything in a row and be able to breathe completely easily when you make new investments and upgrade, right? But unless you kind of push the envelope, that you don't know how far you can go. So essentially what I'm saying is placing myself in that scenario with that object, with that item yesterday was making it even more of a reality. It was my way of manifesting.
Yo, so, I'm going to tell you like this, Pete. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I got to say this, man.
All good.
What you're doing is how people should write their goals, right? So a pro tip, when you write your goals, you write them in the present tense, excuse me. I'm so grateful that I've saved, one of my goals is save 25% of my income. I'm so grateful that I saved 25% of my income by this day, December 28th, 2021, right? I'm so glad I purchased my first house, put 20% down by this day. That you write your goals in the present tense, because you're exactly right. One thing that I didn't mention with all my preparation and buying a house is I wrote my goals down. I wrote that house down every single day. Every single day I woke up, I wrote down 10 things that I was grateful for and my 10 goals. Every single day. I wrote that shit down so much. When I got the house, everybody's like, "Why are you excited? Are you excited?" I was like, "No, I already had this house."
Yeah.
I just got the keys.
You're grooming yourself mentally. Yeah, you know, you just got the keys. That's it. But you were already prepared for it. And I feel like those are some of those stories that we touched on earlier, but there's some of those roses that Chief, you had talked about earlier, like, you got to have flowers in between the bell. You were saying you got to stop and give yourself credit to be able to realistically have this conversation that I had is an accomplishment within itself.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? This ain't, we're not playing house no more. Like, these are real conversations. You know what I'm saying? And I look at it the same way with my conversations with my friends are becoming different now. The money we talk about now in conversations, you know what I mean? Like the possibility, the checks we talk about now are a lot different than the checks we was talking about 5 years ago.
And it should be.
Right.
And these are different careers, but what you have to do though, those are victories, bro. Like if you got a man and y'all was talking about, you was like, before, yo, bro, I need $50. And he like, yo, I ain't got it. And like, I love you. All right, click. I got to get this 50. And now it's like, if you need something, let me know. And the amount went from 50 to 500 for something that's a benefit. Those are celebrations, bro. Being able to have it and take care of it, man.
Yeah. That's a good point.
For sure, because I'm definitely I'm the king of let me hold a rack till Friday. You know what I'm saying? Just to kind of, but to be able to get the rack from your boy and then give it right back is
there's no better feeling.
Right.
No,
there's no better feeling, man. So yeah.
Got your $42.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say nothing, but they'll come that protein jar gonna come up short. You gonna give my money.
Word up. So what about you? Your goal or
goal for
2021?
This is a fact, right? Like, I'm not gonna lie, guys. I've been avoiding writing my goals, but I gotta do them because I literally just told my team to give me their goals. So I'm gonna share mine once they share theirs. I got to do it. And it's crazy, man. It's like, it's scary for me at this stage of my life, right? Not because I'm scared to accomplish it. It's just like we said, you start saying some of this shit out loud and it's like, you start reflecting. It's like, damn, I don't know that I ever thought I would be here, to be able to put that type of shit on paper. You know what I'm saying? Like, so for me, it's like, though they're not these huge audacious goals, not all of them, they're definitely going to be attainable. But it's like, even to put that on paper. Like if I put that on paper right now and handed that to myself 15 years ago, it'd be like, damn, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, so for me, it's like, I used to write that shit before, like this is where I want to be, but to like actually be there now and be like, wow, like now I have to set higher goals. Like that's the part for me that's kind of scary, you know, and I'm gonna do it, but I gotta get into the right mindset and sit down and really dedicate time to it. But what I'll say, like I said, one goal I can say is saving 25% of my income. Like that's one thing I want to do.
Okay. I got one more thing before you, Chief, that I want to add just to the people. One goal that I can't say flat out, man. I'm about to complete everything on my vision board, man. I highly recommend people create a vision board. This is my 100%. Vision board for 2021 right here. For those who may not, it's weird for me to write my goals, to see the sentences of what I want to achieve. I like imagery. I like creativity. So pouring my creativity into this vision board is like everything on here, I know what it means. You know what I mean? Like it makes sense to me. Even if it was a symbol, something I colored, an image that I cut out and pasted, it means something. So don't be afraid to be creative.
Can you send me a picture of that vision board? And I want to talk to you about what's on there, man. I'm curious. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I got you. Because I'm this year I got 2 more layers that I'm gonna do. But yeah, I'll show you it.
Yeah. So again, I'm big on just listening to people talk what they're passionate about. For me, I'm excited about my play, man. Like I'm really.
When you looking to drop?
Probably midsummer.
Probably
midsummer.
You write that down?
Well, I mean, I'm barring COVID, because I want to have. I want to. What I want to do is I'm rewriting my play. I got the music director at school writing a score to it. I'm gonna add like a little bit of a small orchestra to it to kind of really give it that.
Like a real orchestra.
Yeah, like a real theatrical, but not like the instruments. I want I know I want a bassist, I want a piano, I want a violin. You know what I'm saying? But little things like that.
Yeah.
And I found people, so we're gonna get that, and then I want to.
Dude, that's like big time. He's writing a score to it. That's pretty dope.
And I want to get a small, like maybe like 100-seater small theater and re-record it. And then I want to get it on, one of these streaming sites. And then I'm going to transfer that into a book and then to an audio book. And I'm got some people I got to talk to, but if anybody got some plugs out there with publishers for audio books, I mean, audio books, same thing, but I want to do the audio book of my play and really kind of, and submit that joint P. I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna keep that one in the hush, but I'm gonna put that out there. And I'm really excited about it, man, because I've got some good people on my team, and I know it's powerful. I've gotten nothing but positive feedback from it, and just in terms of like what I want it to look like, I have a real good vision. But just in terms of like getting my body right. Like I was talking to my homegirl, and she's like, listen, everything you want to look good. Like my last video, like I had some big ass clothes on. Like I want to, you know what I'm saying? Like I want everything to fit. And so
you want me to style you?
There's a lot of stuff going on that's going to really like.
You want me to style you?
No.
I ignored you that first time too.
Yeah. So I'm super excited about my play. So everyone listening, I have a play called I Wish Life Had Training Wheels. And it's a story of my life. I'm telling the story, and I'm sure anybody with any type of human emotion and compassion connect, and what you connect to is different, but I'm really passionate about it, and I think it's gonna make some noise, man.
Are you rewriting the story?
I'm just editing it, not rewriting. Just editing. I'm not adding nothing to it.
You're not adding nothing to it.
I might add a little bit, but nothing.
But nothing. Yeah. The structure is still
gonna be the same, and just like redesigning the playbill so it reads like when you go to a play, you see section, act 1, scene 1, like really breaking it down. So it's gonna be dope, man. I'm super. That's my goal this year, is to really do those things with my play and turn it up a notch.
That's a fact.
Is that all of ours?
I mean, it's just one, but
no, I mean all per the question.
Yeah, that's just one. So we jump into final thoughts and end this joint, man.
Yeah, I think so, man. My final thought is don't compare, compete, right? And when I say compete, I don't mean compete with me or compete with Prentice or compete with Chief. Like compete with your inner self, whatever that is, right? Like a lot of times we see things and we want things, and like we sometimes feel like when we have those things that it'll be the fulfilling, it would provide that fulfilling fulfillment that we're looking for. And a lot of times it it's just one of those things where it's like, that's not really it, right? So compete with your inner self with what it is you really want, right? What it is you really want to get accomplished. If it's monetary, if it's whatever it is, right? Like, but just make sure whatever that thing is, it'll bring you the peace that you're looking for. Like, but don't compare yourself to anybody else. Just compete with yourself internally.
P?
Just remember, you got to figure this shit out, man. You know, we're giving you, you know, just experiences and insight into our lives, the way they've affected us. It's not supposed to sound like yours, because it doesn't mean yours is any worse than ours. You know what I mean? So, you know, the whole process is just figure it out and give yourself the freedom to figure out how you're going to get where you want to get. You know, give yourself grace and be kind along the way.
For me, there's a couple. I think it's one, do the work. Like it's cool to write it down, but actually do the work. Two, embrace the failures and find the lesson in them and use them to fuel you. And three, don't be afraid to lean on people you trust.
Yeah, in that same vein, when you said that, Chief, it made me think, find an accountability partner. Chief, that 365 group chat he got, right? There's accountability in that. When you write things down, they become real. When you say things after you've written them down, it becomes cemented, right? So now somebody has the right to ask you about that. Hey, Prentice, how's that coming along that we talked about 2 months ago? Chief, how that mile going a day? How many days in are you now? Right? Is it something to keep you on your toes, right? We ain't perfect. Like we as a human race, people, right? We're going to slip up. But when we have that accountability, it helps. That's all.
For sure. So, we're going to wrap this up. And again, if you have any questions, comments, complaints, or concerns, hit us up at allblackmenneedtherapy@gmail, on all social media outlets at allblackmenneedtherapy. We're going to keep this thing rolling. Do us all a favor and hug a black man today.
Hug a black man today.
And tomorrow.
And tomorrow.
We out, y'all.
Peace.
You see that one coming, did you?